You see they're dry. You see there's no marrow in the bone. You see they're scattered all over the valley. They ain't even full skeletons. I mean, the bones are scattered all over the valley. They're just bones. But answer me a question, Ezekiel. Can these bones live? Ezekiel answers the only way he knows how to answer. Lord, you know. Critical race theory was born out of critical legal theory. Am I teaching y'all something today? There emerged two common beliefs linking all critical race theories. First, white supremacy has subordinated black people and other people of color. That's just a fact. How in the world are you going to fight against that being taught in any school? White supremacy has subordinated black people and other people of color. That's a fact. Why don't you want that to be taught in school? You let your schools teach us that Columbus discovered America. That's a lie. You let your schools teach us that George Washington couldn't tell a lie. That's a lie. You let your schools teach us that some slave owners were beneficent and good slave owners. There were no good slave owners. Anybody who owned people was evil. That's a lie. You let your schools teach us that Abraham Lincoln was good for Negroes. No, Abraham Lincoln was trying to save the Union. And Abe Lincoln himself said if he could save the Union and keep black people in chains, he would do it. That's a lie. Come on, somebody. You let them teach us about a white Jesus. You let them teach us that Native Americans were the aggressors. Come on, somebody. That white folk had a manifest destiny and that the pilgrims were good and Native Americans. That's a lie. All day, every day, you let them teach us lies. All throughout my history in school, I was taught lies. But you got a problem with critical race theory because it teaches the truth that white supremacy has subordinated black people and people of color. The right to bear arms. Let me just back up a little bit and let me take you on back to the late 1960s when Ronald Reagan was the governor of California. And they were oppressing black folk, and a group of men and women known as the Black Panther Party decided that they were going to defend the rights of black folk. And the Black Panthers decided that the Second Amendment wasn't just for white folk. So they strapped themselves with guns and showed up at the Capitol in California. And when they saw them Negroes with guns, come on, somebody. That's why I say if you ever really want to get gun laws changed, just strap all these Negroes up. They'll change them laws before the week is over. When the Black Panthers, watch this, I want you to read, the California legislator passed what was called the Mulford Act. It was a gun control act that decided who could get guns, who couldn't get guns, what could be in your background, what couldn't be in your background. It was the first time in history that the National Rifle Association, the NRA, supported restrictive gun legislation, all because black folk had the nerve to get strapped. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, go get strapped. Amen, somebody. Y'all gonna say Bishop told us to get strapped. I said it. Go get strapped. It just got real quiet up in here. But y'all already know I'm a triple P. Amen. Y'all know what a triple P is, right? A pistol packing preacher. Amen, somebody. Thank you, Jesus. just because you made it to the palace. Bless the name of the Lord. But you've got a responsibility to help somebody else make it across. Thank you, Jesus. Don't pull up the ladder because you climbed to the top. Don't blow up the bridge because you made your way across. Thank you, Jesus. But reach your hand back down the ladder and pull somebody else up out of Lodabar. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Bless the name of the Lord. Somebody got to tell
90.7
just hold it for me.
WTCC. Good morning and welcome to the Spoken Word. I'm your host, Bishop Talbert Swan, the second, and as usual, we'll be telling it like it is through cultural idioms and nuances that shape the order, ethos, and chaos of the African American experience. Words have their own vitality. They shape their own consciousness and create their own context for interpreting social and spiritual reality. The spoken word contains the power to reshape the landscape of society. 3 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. I want to thank my brother, Mr. Kenneth Barnett, for bringing us up until the 9 o'clock hour with the promise. You can hear the promise every Monday morning from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., bringing you the best in gospel music, a good way to start out your Monday morning, a great way to start out your week. And this week, we're going to continue. We didn't have enough time in the spoken word hour to deal with the issue of black male bashing gone wild. And we're going to continue that conversation this morning, coming up at the 10 o'clock hour on Justice and Flow. For those who are on the social media sites, we will have Massachusetts Attorney General candidate Andrea Campbell will be with us, so stay tuned for that. But during this hour, we're going to continue with that black male bashing subject. Tell a friend, tell somebody. The bishop is on the air right now. All right. I need you to like. I need you to share. I need you to subscribe. I need you to comment. Those of you who are on Instagram, you can even give a badge, buy a badge. Those of you on Facebook, you can buy stars, all that stuff to show support. But let's get it crunk. Good morning, Whitney. My baby girl is shouting me out to you and my grandbabies in Chi-Town. I see Dallas, Texas is in the house. Let's see. Who else is up in here? Rep your city, rep your town. Tell me if you can hear me on Facebook, because Todd Hankins says he has no sound. But if y'all got sound on Facebook, let me know you can hear me. Let me know y'all can hear me. Springdale, Maryland is in the house. H-Town is in the house. I just need to know if it's Todd's phone or if it's me. Okay, y'all hear me. Thank you, Angela. So, Todd, you're going to have to figure out what's going on with your system, bro. Keyshawn Dodge in the house. Good morning, sir. Good morning to you, to yours, to all of y'all in here. Springfield, Mass, of course, is in the house. Rep your city, rep your town. Let me know where you're coming in from. Where you're in from on the gram, where you're in from on on YouTube, on Facebook. Thank you, Clifton Forbes on the gram. Y'all can hear me on the gram. All right. Appreciate y'all letting me know you can hear me. All right, listen, we got to get right into this. Let me give you a little bit of spoken word, and then we'll come right back into the subject because we got to transition hard at 10 o'clock. For Andrea Campbell. This is a response to the sellout by Big Sis Rhonda Swan. Stay tuned. Tell somebody Bishop is on the air. Let's get it crunk.
You say you sold out because black women are loud and crass. What? And your precious white woman is the epitome of class? Are you so blind that you cannot see? That pale girl child ain't got nothing on me. For hundreds of years we have stood by your side, accepted your flaws and allowed you your pride, bore your children and cleaned up your mess, satisfied your lust and always settled for less. We have stayed in the background and allowed you to lead, trusting in your strength and ability to succeed, never getting the praise and credit we deserve, but having the courage, the will, and the nerve, for being the backbone that has kept it together, for you and our children in all kinds of weather. And now suddenly you say we're not good enough for you. We forced you to sell out because of the things we do. Well, where was that white woman when that white man you hate was cracking the whip? In the boardroom, the warehouse, and on the slave ship. She stood by his side and didn't say a word, waiting for her own chance to rule and be heard. And now it's her you turn to and treat like a queen? And me and my sisters you choose to demean? Well, hold up, wait a minute, and stop the damn bus. Because there are a few things I need to remind you about us. Listen up. A more beautiful creature God never made than an African woman, no matter her shade. High, yellow, red bone, or cocoa brown, we are more than worthy of wearing a crown. Ebony, mocha, or black as the night. It is we who have always shared in your plight. We are passionate, spiritual, loving, and kind. A more generous heart you'll never find than the one that beats inside the body of a Nubian queen, the hardest working, loving, giving woman you've ever seen. Where we give and forgive until there's little left. Then we're forced to put up our guard to avoid your theft. The theft of our hearts and our trust, the very nature of our soul, by our so-called brothers who are just playing a role. And you wonder why some of us act as we do? Take a look in the mirror, because the answer is you. It's not enough that the white man has always tried to keep us down, but our own men act as though they'd love to see us drown. And white women have never invited us to join their equal rights struggle. So we're out here alone with a million things we juggle, raising the children that black men leave behind, and dealing with the racism of the daily corporate grind. Damn, it's no wonder some of us are loud. Hell, we're just trying to be heard. In a world where everyone, including our men, ignore our every word. Where are the brothers who understand a black woman's worth? Who will protect and stand by us, for we are the salt of this earth. We birthed you, raised you, and showered you with love. It was we who taught you to love your creator above. We gave you all we had and taught you to be men. Open your eyes, it is us, your black sisters, not Bo Derek's kind who rates a perfect 10. And one final word for the sellout who claim to be brothers. When you turn your back on us, you disrespect your mothers. Did you hear that? This is a response to the sellout.
90.7 WTCC. Response to the sellout. You know who you are. You know who you are. All right. Let's get it crunk in the house. Rep your city, rep your town. Welcome to everybody who's listening across the Pioneer Valley, in the field, Springfield, Massachusetts, Vermont, Connecticut, wherever you are in the Pioneer Valley, and to all of those of you in our global audience across the internet. Welcome. Union County, New Jersey is in the house. Um, Brenda Ford, good morning from Fairburn, Georgia. Good morning from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. All right, y'all can hear me on YouTube. Wonderful. Jeff Morneau in the house. East Long Meadow is up in the building. Ludlow is in the house. Come on. Where y'all in from? Where you coming in from? All right. Let's just continue. We started our conversation last week, and we're talking about this wild bashing of black men that was going on. Black men has been trending on social media all week in light of that situation with the therapist uh, who was encouraging black men to go to therapy. And I'm a proponent of therapy. I believe when people need to go to therapy, they need to go. But getting on the internet and calling black men dusty bees, hoes, sad MFers, that's a heck of a way to encourage them to get to therapy. Um, I see you, Jefferson, Georgia. I see you, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Um, and so when she violated um, the code of ethics for therapists, which is what happened, her company fired her. And so all these black women went on a rant about black men getting her fired. No, she got herself fired. She got herself fired. You can't get on the internet and talk about how 90% of my clients are black men and then proceed to dog out black men and then get mad at black men when you lose your job. You about to lose your job. You about to lose your job. So anyway, I'm being petty. Yeah, call me Petty LaBelle right now. Um, so she lost her job, and folk, have been blaming brothers, ever since. You know, going on and on and on and on, and we heard some of the same stuff happening. Y'all dusty. And where is this dusty stuff coming from? What? Come on, sisters, help me out with that. Is that like the preferred insult to black men, to call us dusty? Ow, ow, I see you, frat. Washington D.C. in the building. To call it, I'm not. I use plenty of lotion and moisturize. I'm always moisturized. So, you know, Dusty. Anyway, so we've been called Dusty all week. We've been called trifling all week. Everything you can think of, every pejorative that you can think of, um, they've been calling black men all week. Somebody called me Father Swan on the gram. People make that mistake, especially when I got a collar on. Hey, Father, forgive me, Father. Anyway, um, so they've been, just continued bashing of black men. I see you, Lawrenceville, Georgia. I see you, Hartford, Connecticut. And so, we've been characterized for years, for hundreds of years, as violent, misogynist, trifling, lazy, predatory, rapists, criminals, you name it. They've characterized black men. None of it is steeped in any empirical evidence that suggests that we have a predilection to be violent, or there's anything inherent in our DNA that causes us to be violent. So there's no scientific or empirical evidence that backs up any of these assertions about black men, yet people are happy to parrot, these talking points. I see you, Indonesia is in the house on the gram. Um, and so, you know, um, couple all of that, that has been stereotypical descriptions of black males for eons. Couple that with black women jumping in the fray and calling us trifling and dusty and the white people of black people and all that other stuff. And so we can't win for losing because we got white men against us, we got white women against us, we got black women against us. Um, we just can't win. And then, of course, we got certain black men who jump on the bandwagon. I was debating a number of black men over the past week who basically were saying, no, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with black women calling black men dusty and this and that, because of what they've gone through. There's nothing wrong with them disparaging black men. Get out of my face with that foolishness. And here's the thing. Let's just keep it a buck. There's a difference between evidence that says this is how black men are, or the majority of black men are, and your personal experience. There's a difference. There's a difference. Because, all these stereotypes, when they talk about black men not taking care of the kids, when they did the studies, they found out that black men are more involved in the care and protection of their children than their counterparts of other demographics. More than white men, Asian men, Latino men. Okay? That's what the evidence said. And see, what y'all keep pointing to is how many black women are unmarried. Well, just because a black woman is not married to the father of her children does not mean that the father is not involved in the lives of their children. That's just not fact-based evidence. And so when you really look at the real stats, the whole trifling and not taking care of their kids, and are there some men who don't? Of course. There's a whole lot of white men who don't. You go in the post office and you look at the deadbeat dads most wanted list. They used to post in Massachusetts. They used to post the top child support scofflaws in the state, and they would be all white men. And when you consider the fact that the majority of people on welfare are white women who got white babies by white men who ain't taking care of their kids. Yeah. So there's some black men who don't take care of their kids, some white men who don't take care of their kids, some Latino men who don't take care of their kids. Stop trying to make things specific to black males. It's just not a fact. It's just not a fact. This stuff dates back to mid-19th century ethnologists and contemporary and now contemporary intersectional feminists that continue this stereotypical vitriolic bashing of black men, especially straight black men, or what they call cis black men. As if you need to be ashamed of yourself if you're a straight black man. If you're a man who likes women, if you're a black man who likes women, there's something wrong with you. If you're a cis black man, can I give y'all a hint? Can I tell y'all a secret? Lean in. Come on, lean into the screen. Those of y'all out there on the internet. Put your ear close to the speaker, y'all. I'm gonna tell y'all a secret. Without cis black men, there aren't any black women. Yeah, because it's our seed that produces. And I get it, y'all gonna say, oh, we can go and do intro whatever fertilization. But we don't need y'all to have, but you still got to get the seed from somewhere. I don't care if you have it put into you through a medical procedure or whatever. It takes a black man, the seed of a black man, to make a black female baby who grows up into a black woman. And so the fact that you got these women out here hating straight black men, when if it wasn't for straight black men, they black behind wouldn't exist, is crazy to me. I mean, it's just pure D insanity. Let me get Cool Mo V. I think that's a play on Cool Mo D. Cool Mo V in the Twitter space. Unmute your microphone. You got the floor. Yeah, y'all. It takes us to make y'all, and vice versa. It takes a black woman to make a black man, a black baby. All right, Kumo, you gotta unmute your microphone, or else I gotta move on to the next speaker. Kumo going once, going twice. Kumo is gone. Let me bring LaRon Barton up in the Twitter space. LaRon, you now have the floor. Good morning.
Good morning, Bishop. Thank you for allowing me on the stage. You know, it's really sad how when you look at this division within the black community, especially online. I mean, first off, like I want people to know that look, black people in real life really don't act like this. I just think that when it comes to Twitter, you have a lot of black folks that never really had a voice because no one really cared what they had to say. They're anti-black themselves. So with Twitter, you're bound to find people that agree with your views. Secondly, this whole thing about straight black men being the white people, that is probably the dumbest ish I've heard in the past 5 years. Because if you think about it, statistically, black men have the lowest life expectancy, are incarcerated the most. For every 100,000 people incarcerated, 8,000 of them are black men. We are the least hired. We are the most homeless. We are the least educated in terms of going to universities. So we are the most arrested. So we're at near or at the bottom of all these different metrics, but yet we're supposed to have some type of privilege. So the math ain't mathing.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, to that sister that said those things and she got fired. Let's just think about this for a second. You're a clinician. You're a therapist. You're online talking about your patients in a very rude and nasty way.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people finally check you and allow you to lose your job, then you want to blame it on black men. Like it doesn't make sense, Bishop. Because if this were reversed, people will be calling for black men to be accountable and all this mess. Matter of fact, if a brother even fix his face and say something remotely like that, he would be ran off the internet. He would be bashed. He would have lost his job quickly.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is that if you look at like all the other ethnicities, and I don't want to do the corny thing of saying Asian people don't do this, Latino people don't do this, et cetera, but this whole notion of the black woman is the least protected. No one cares about black women's feelings, but black women. Well, when the people that you're calling to protect you, you're also bashing them up. You're
Thank you.
calling them. What's
Thank
the thing
you.
that they call us? We
Dusty.
are we are the lowest. I'm sorry. We're the weakest link. So it's like, how does
Right.
that make sense?
Right. Right. I mean that was the irony of that whole situation was after Sister Girl got fired, she came back out with a video and talked about how y'all got a black woman who was serving her the black
No
community
accountability.
fired, and then she said y'all didn't protect the black woman. Wait. How do you come out and call us Dusty Bees, sad MFers, and everything else, and then say at the same time, now y'all protect me at the same time? That's insanity.
It makes no sense, man. I mean, you know what's funny, man? Like, and I'll end it with this, Bishop. The great Dr. Tommy Curry, author of The Man Not, he once told me, he said, you know what, man? These people, they don't realize that black folks are interconnected, and so because of that, you can't separate yourself from black men. You know, we can sit here, we can delineate into these subgroups. Oh, I'm an intersectional feminist. I'm an LGBTQ black person. Yada yada yada. Listen, that's all good and all, but at the end of the day, you black.
You
So
black. Thank
trying
you.
to distance yourself from, let's just say, straight black men, it's not going to make sense because, Bishop, it's like what you said. You need a cisgender black man to make a black woman, and I'll just
Absolutely.
leave it at that.
I appreciate you, bro. And the other thing is that makes this really dangerous is a lot of these sisters who are saying these things and doing these things and parroting this narrative and spewing this dangerous vitriol, really partnering with our open enemy, are raising black boys. And so if all black men ain't ish, that means your daddy ain't ish, your sons ain't ish. I mean, how dangerous is that? That the mothers of black boys who have to navigate all of the vicissitudes of a white supremacist culture that is designed to cut off their lives, their creativity, and their potential. And their mothers are speaking a narrative and creating a context and a paradigm in their environment that is detrimental to them. I mean, I feel sorry for these boys that are being raised by these women. Let me get my girl Teslin Figaro up in the spot. Tez, what's happening this Monday morning?
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Bishop. I just wanted to chime in. I have no idea. I have not watched the video that you are speaking of. You know, it's hard to keep up with everything on the internet and these internet streets. But I did want to just comment on the brother, LaRon. I checked his profile. Looks like he follows me. And I just want to give everybody, he made a great point, LaRon, but it's also important that when we're talking about those stats, when he ran the stats down about being the least educated, the least unemployed, the math ain't mathing, the high incarceration rates, the least education rates. I understand what LaRon was saying, but be careful to LaRon and others to make sure that you always include the word disproportionately.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you say that we're the most incarcerated and the least educated and the least employed, and we're supposed to have all this privilege, I understand the point that he was making, but as people are listening and as you're framing this argument, make sure that everyone adds disproportionately. Because when you say the math's not math and then say all of those negative things, it actually does math, and that's what I assume, with the counter argument is that, most black men are locked up, don't have jobs, don't have education.
So just be careful as you're having, and I do this, as you know, all the time, Bishop, on Fox News. That one word disproportionately sets a different, it frames the argument differently. And so just be careful, guys, as you're having that conversation to make sure that you include that. And can I give a plug about the training, if you don't mind, Bishop? I hate to cut you off guard, but do you mind?
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Okay. We have a training coming up, a free training. It's this type of stuff that I'm talking about, teaching people how to frame arguments, how to debate. We're not going to get into the extensive debating at the training, but the training does cover us for candidates, those who want to run for office, those who want to be operatives, those who want to be organizers. A true nonpartisan training, nonpartisan for real, for real. September 10th in Atlanta, Georgia, at the Cobb Convention Center. Beautiful establishment, free food, free to attend, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can text push the line, all one word, push the line, all one word, to 66866. I normally don't like to do shameless plugs, but I figure since
no,
you don't mind.
No, not at all.
It's really important that people know how to navigate these spaces, and that training really does that. And you and I are aligned with nonpartisanship and being very frustrated with Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah.
And so this training is about, hey, if you don't like the options you have, then get in the game. We're going to teach you how to do that. Thank you so much, Bishop.
Absolutely. If I wasn't closing out my convocation, I would be there.
Well, we can we're going to have another one, and you will be there. We're going to make sure we're going to have plenty online. I would love to do it online with you. And we talked about this before with how to organize faith-based organizing because that's critically important, and it is a way to do it. And like Bishop Dixon says, too many pastors on cruise ships and not battleships.
Yeah.
So I would love to have an online training with you that everybody can log on to through our training system on how to organize faith-based and how to not be no punk and still be faith-based. It is, I think you can do, only you can do that type of training. So, no, we will definitely not have you just attend, but lead one of these sessions as we get into the various subtopics moving forward.
All right, sis. Good hearing from you.
Thank you.
All right. Listen, if y'all don't follow Teslin Figueroa, y'all go ahead and follow her here on Twitter, but then follow her on the gram as well. A lot of good information. She puts out a lot of great things she's doing. And nobody better at political commentary. So y'all follow that sister right there. Let me get Friedman's Media up in the space. Friedman, you got the microphone. Unmute your mic. Holler at your brother.
Good morning, Bishop. I appreciate you having this space, and good morning to the family. I will second that notion about Sister Teslin. She is real with hers. I've been watching her on Fox and other outlets for years. But first of all, I really want to thank you for being a warrior with the clergy collar, because I'll be honest with you, I fell out of organized religion years back just due to the passiveness of preachers. And I know that I don't throw all preachers in the same basket, but you have stood out over the last several years, and I've followed you, and I appreciate where you are with this. And this is a subject that is really near and dear to my heart, because when she came out and threw us all in a barrel, it let me know that she had pushed her chips all the way in the middle of the table and bought into the gender wars.
Right.
And I really don't believe that this is a situation that we have to deal with on a global scale, but we've got to touch it every time it comes across our table. And I think we have concluded that she is not an American freedman, that she is a Black immigrant. I believe that was confirmed, and I know that they hold us to a different standard. And I'm going to protect all our sisters the best way I can, but I cannot call that woman, that female, she's not a woman, a sister. I call she is somebody who has basically been locked in mentally to basically destroy us. And I second that situation. I mean, she's raising a Black boy. and you saying that black man ain't shit, but that means you saying that your black boy ain't gonna be shit.
Right.
And what are you saying to his black father? And I apologize for the language, but that's where we have to be in this. We have to call things out right when they get there, and we see what happens. And to that brother that says, Tesla was right. We are not categorically at the bottom. Disproportionately, yes, but we are not statistically all at the bottom. Many of us are out here doing things, and most of us are in our kids' lives. Yeah. So I just was looking for a comfortable space because we just sent our senior off for her first day of school. So I'm in my feelings right now. So I just wanted to get in here with some family and hear some positive vibes, but I will come down. But I appreciate you having this space because we need brothers like yourself out here doing this. It would have been a great space even if a lady would have had it, but it's even more powerful that a man chose to do this. And, much respect to you, brother.
All right. Thank you, my brother. 413-337-1867 for those of you who are listening over WTCC radio. If you want to chime in on the conversation, matter of fact, I've been neglecting to put the phone number up. There it is. The phone lines are open. If you want to comment on the conversation, there's a category of sisters out there who call themselves divestors. And they refer to themselves as divested black women. But their main focus isn't really about being content and happy, but it's really attacking black men. Some of them even go so far as to wish for their death. They've even got videos out there where they're talking about the death of black men. There was one lawyer, an educator, who called us bullet bags. Bullet bags. She lost her job too. And they blamed black men for her losing her job after she called us nigcels, which was a play on incels. Nigcels, combination of nigger and incel. She called us nigcels and bullet bags. So these sisters who call themselves divestors, the word divest means to rid yourself of something. And basically they're saying that society would be better off without black men. Now, once again, as I've stated, and as another one of the brothers has stated, there's no you without black men. You don't exist without us. We don't exist without you. So the asininity of saying you want to be divested from black men, how do you consider yourself? I mean, that's the dichotomy. That's the paradox here. That's the insanity of this thing, is pretending to be pro-black at the same time as talking about divesting yourself from black men. It makes absolutely no sense. Then you got the Blackistan sisters. Those are the women who are self-confessed swirlers. Some of y'all may have heard that term. They like zaddy. They love and deify white and Asian men. And listen, somebody's going to say, well, you can't help who you fall in love with. Okay. All right. I give you that. Can't help who you, but there's a difference between you just happen to fall in love with a white guy or an Asian guy or a Latino guy than being invested in denigrating black men and deifying white men. These Blackistan women, they worship any man that is not black. They paint an image of black love as being negative and evil. They refer to the black community as Blackistan. They call black love struggle love, when the reality is any love is struggle love. if if you're gonna be in any relationship, it's gonna be a struggle. To keep it healthy and to ensure its longevity. Ain't no relationship just coast on flower beds of ease with no struggles. But they refer to black love as struggle love. Then you got the sisters who say choose better. They believe choosing better means getting a non-black man. They call black women who believe in and support black love mammies. There's actually a video out there that breaks down the real definition of a mammy, and we ain't gonna get into that. But really, these women are the real mammies. They say they want to focus on character over color, as if black men don't have character. It's just crazy. I mean, and like I said before, we got enough of having to deal with white society. Good morning, Mother Valerie Fields. I see you, supervisor. Of dealing with white supremacy in America than to have to fight our own women, than to have to continually struggle against this crazy narrative. And what you're doing is you're helping white supremacy. That's the whole divide and conquer thing. It's like we already got these Negroes down, and if we turn their women against them, I mean, they're in a bad situation. And a lot of them have joined in with the white feminist movement, and like Sister Rachel Cargill said, white feminism is nothing but white supremacy in heels. Okay? And white feminism was never about emancipating and creating a system that equalized opportunity for all women. The white feminist movement was about white women putting themselves in parity with white men. They just want to be equal to white men so that they both can rule this nation together. So they can denigrate and oppress black people just like their white men can. It was never about all women. It was never about black women or anybody other than themselves. I mean, that's just the reality. Let me get Untouchables in the Twitter space. Untouchables, you got the microphone.
Yes, sir. Bishop, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you for holding this space. Again, here from the great state of Connecticut, your D9 brother.
Yes, sir.
This issue is again, it's like war. And, part of me feels like maybe we need more sisters to stand up against this than I hear, because when anything happens, it's just like, where's our voice? Brittany Griner's ex-wife posted a statement about, I needed black men to stand up, and Brittany stood up more as a black man than black men have. She just made this statement about what's going on in Russia. And it's nonsensical. So
it's big time
we're not hearing enough of the sisters, because when we don't say anything, they hate on us. When we say too much, they hate on us.
Wow, and that's crazy to me.
Which is saying to women like this counselor and some of this stuff, to say, hey, this is wrong. Right? The great Sharon Ali said many years ago, before this whole protect black women, she said, you can't protect black women. This is a woman and a sister saying it. You can't protect us all in every situation, because some sisters will draw you right into a prison cell on their nonsense. So we're not talking about a race soldier beating up a sister. I'm on it. We're not talking about somebody just degrading a sister, a public space or whatever. I'm on it. But some of the loudmouth nonsense, like we gotta address a lot, and it's difficult. because again, it conveniently, it's us. This counselor, she did wrong. She got herself fired, like you said, and then this black man's fault, and a woman was the one that called and got her fired.
Yeah, and here's the crazy thing is
Yes,
a
sir.
whole lot of black men stood up for Brittany Griner. It was a whole lot of black men who were calling the LGBTQ community to the carpet because of their disparate response to Brittany Griner's situation than what they would have done had that been a white a gay woman in that situation. So that's just not reality to say that black men didn't stand up. That's crazy.
Right. Absolutely. And again, the statistics still show that we are the most racially loyal black men to black women of any group.
But listen, brother. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Here's the reality. This is what the empirical evidence bears out. The majority of married black men are married to black women. The majority of black men with children have children by black women. The majority of black men who date women date black women. So the whole narrative about black men wanting white women and hating black women, that is not based in any level of empirical evidence whatsoever, because the stats bear out something completely different.
Bishop, if I could say one thing and then I'll land my plane. I am the product, my older brother and I, of a 30-year marriage that separated my parents. Our mentorships, as far as marriage views, my grandparents are married, all my aunts and uncles. I saw it. So I check, and I have a lot of female friends, I check them when, we kind of get to these brainwashed conversations where men ain't nothing. Okay, how many of these bad scenarios did you see? A lot of them say no. I even got homegirls where I got to check them because in their relationships or last marriages, they was the one doing a lot of dirt. So we got to get back to the point where we're just human. So I don't want to sound at all like I only date black women. So that's it. But we're not your enemy, and there's a lot of that, and we just need to speak out against it. I'll land my plane again, Bishop. Thank you for your time.
All right, appreciate you, brother. 413-337-1867 is the number if you're in the 413 on 90.7 WTCC radio. Let me let you know about the upcoming Hope Festival. Hope Fest will be held at the Spring of Hope Church of God in Christ, 35 Alden Street, on Saturday, September 10th, from 1 to 4 p.m. It will be the conclusion of our holy convocation that we're having that week, the 6th through the 9th. And Hope Fest is free, open to the public. There's going to be food. There's going to be entertainment. We got some of the best singers and poets and dancers and folk out there that will be in the building. There will be vendors. There will be games for your children, face painting, all of that. And then we even got Dunk the Bishop. Yeah, I'll be in the dunk tank, and you will be able to buy some balls and see if you can dunk the bishop. All that's happening on September 10th. You want to be there. Our holy convocation is September 6th through the 9th. On the 6th, the Reverend Willie Moy from Bridgeport, Connecticut, will be our speaker. We've got that's that Tuesday the 6th. On Wednesday, the 7th, we've got our empowerment workshops, which will be virtual. We've got the Bishop David Daniels, who will be doing a session about the call to radical holiness. And then that evening, Dr. Ruby Holland from Memphis, Tennessee, will be our keynote speaker at 7 p.m. that evening. And then on Thursday is going to be a power pack day at 12 noon. Our empowerment session, the Bishop Ulysses Henderson We'll be talking about doing ministry with integrity. So you want to be a part of that. And then that evening, we got a double decker at 6 o'clock. The Women's Empowerment Hour. Our jurisdictional supervisor, Mother Valerie Fields, will be addressing the women. And then at the 7:30 p.m. service, Pastor Jacqueline Powell from Latter Rain Ministries in Hartford, Connecticut, will be our speaker. Then on Friday evening at 7 p.m. will be the official night. Yours truly. I'll be speaking and giving my annual address. And then on Saturday, we close it out with Hope Fest 2022. So you don't want to miss what's happening at Spring of Hope, September 6th through the 10th. I also need you to put a pin on to save the date for October 27th. The annual Freedom Fund membership banquet for the Greater Springfield NAACP will take place at the Sheraton Springfield. You can purchase your tickets right now. You can get an in-person ticket where you can sit down and have a meal with us, or you can be a virtual guest. You can purchase a virtual ticket. You can go right now. Matter of fact, let me put it in the chat. You can go right now to bit.ly/104 Freedom Fund. Bit.ly. Did I get that right? Yeah, bit.ly /.ly/104 Freedom Fund. You can go there right now and you can purchase your tickets right now. Our special guest will be the Bishop Vashti McKenzie, the first African American bishop in the AME Church, the oldest Black denomination in America. She will be my special guest, and she is also the international chaplain of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So she's my counterpart. I'm the international chaplain of Iota Phi Theta fraternity. She's the international chaplain of Delta Sigma Theta. So the D9 will be in the building at the 104th Freedom Fund banquet of the NAACP. So I just needed to put those in there while we're still on the radio for those of you all who are in the 413, so you can take action on both of those events. Let me get Father Time. Let's see if we can get Father Time in here again. Father, you got to unmute your microphone. You got it.
Thank you, Bishop. Thank you, Bishop. I love this room and the energy, and shout out to the fam, by the way. But my take on this is what we're seeing is the culmination of what they told us that they planned to do, which was to break up of the family. We're seeing the result, and it's why it's confusing, because white supremacy, that was their goal, to divide the black man and the black woman, because the black man was always their target from back in the day. You know, so what we're seeing is them having that caricature in their mind of that white supremacy ingrained in them, and they're playing out things that way. Because white supremacy is an ideology. Anybody can actually learn it, you know, if that makes sense. So they're playing out, and it doesn't look, white supremacy in blackface looks crazy to anybody who doesn't see it for what it is. But and also they run to the feminists because black men are always the target. So
always.
They think that they're safe. Go ahead.
No, I said always. I was just agreeing.
Okay, but yeah, they run into the white masses and they think that they're safe there, but they don't understand that those white feminists are still white supremacists too. And then they find out the hard way. Then they have to run back to the family when stuff goes sideways. If that makes sense. But while they're in that divesting mode, before they get all that abuse and stuff, they're complacent with white supremacy. And I don't know if there's a way to get them out of that mindset, but we have to realize they are what they are and deal with them accordingly that way. Because we know the black family is strong, and black men and black women are are better, are just as good or better as everybody else. We got bright, intelligent people, and that character is not us, and we can't let them put that on us. And I'm gonna land my plane there.
All right. Appreciate you, brother. Absolutely. Absolutely. 4 minutes left in the spoken word, and then we transition to Justice and Flow. Our guest on Justice and Flow, for those of you who are listening on the radio and who want to come over into that space, is Andrea Campbell, who is a candidate for Massachusetts Attorney General. And so she is going to be the guest on Justice and Flow in just a few minutes. So when we sign off the radio, you're going to have to come on over to the social media space so you can jump on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, and continue the conversation. And, there are those who are saying, Bishop, these women need an outlet. And listen, I understand people need an outlet to express their pain. That's what therapy is for, though. Since y'all encouraging black men to go to therapy, maybe these sisters that are dogging black men so bad, maybe they need to go to therapy, because that therapist certainly needs therapy. Everybody needs an outlet to express their pain, but this is not the way forward to be in the public sphere going back and forth at one another. I just don't believe in double standards or hypocrisy. We can't fall victim to the traps that are being put in place to divide us. And sadly, many of us are being pawns in this system and can't even see it. And so, I think that what we need to do is these folks who parrot this narrative, we need to silence and suppress them, ignore them, don't share their videos, um, don't become part of their platforms, give them no promotion whatsoever. Our job is to promote positivity and love towards each other. Black men, black women, black children. There needs to be more positive things put out in the social space. We've got to take a more proactive stance rather than a reactionary position. Um, let's celebrate black love. Let's celebrate black excellence. Let's celebrate all of that good stuff that they're trying to pretend doesn't even exist. In just a moment, my wife is going to come on. She co-hosts the Justice and Flow Hour with me. You're talking about a 31-year marriage, 32 years coming in February. We've got a beautiful black family, black children, black grandchildren. Like D Smoke said, everything black. And there's no shame in our game about everything being black. Yeah, we're about that life when it comes to black people. And so, we reject all of this craziness, of folks who want to bash black men, who want to bash black women, who want to bash black children, like M'Baka said in the Black Panther, we will not have it. Okay? We will not have it. Listen, I got to sign off of the spoken word. I got to get off the radio. I'm continuing on the internet. So those of you in the social media space, you can continue on with us. Well, for those of you who are listening on WTCC in the Pioneer Valley, listen, if you're looking for a place to worship, check us out at the Spring of Hope Church of God in Christ, 35 Alden Street, Springfield, Massachusetts. The big brick church right there on Six Corners down the street from Springfield College, 11 a.m. on Sunday morning. Our Wednesday virtual Bible study is at 7:30 p.m. Prayer, praise, and preaching happening, empowerment, inspiration every single week. So check us out in the building. We'll be there this Sunday and want you to be our guest. Those of you on the radio, listen, come on over to the social media space. But until the next time I talk to you and you talk to me, always remember, God loves you. So do I. All right. We're back in the building. Justice and flow happening right now. Tell a friend, tell somebody, please jump on, share it, like, do all that kind of stuff. We got special guests coming right up here on Justice and Flow. So y'all jump in here and let my wife tell you what's happening on today's show. What's going on?
Good morning, everyone. I see that the chat is not as loaded as it usually is on Monday mornings, and I just remembered that the kids are back to school today. So most of maybe a lot of our listeners are dealing with that, and maybe our young listeners are also back to school. But good morning, Bishop. Good show. This morning, of course, extremely controversial. It raises up a lot of processing. But good morning, Angela and Ayana. I'm really excited about the show today, Bishop, and we don't have a lot of time with her.
Your guest is here.
All right, good. Well, everybody, we have a special guest with us today. As you know, the last few weeks, I've been trying to bring in the candidates for the various offices, running for the various offices throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And today we have Miss Andrea Campbell with us, candidate for Attorney General. You can bring her up, Bishop. We are so excited to have her for the few moments that we do have. Good morning, Andrea.
Good morning. It's great to be on, and it's great to see both of you. Thank you for having me.
Good morning.
It is indeed a good morning. That's for sure.
I love it.
All right.
I love it.
Glad to have you here. We've been trying to figure out a way to connect. I'm glad we could do it this way.
Absolutely.
I'm
So
gonna let I'm gonna let
first,
my start the convo.
thank you, Bishop. It's a little bit of a delay, so we apologize to the listeners about the delay. So you might hear some overlapping, but just bear with us, everybody, and you too, Andrea.
No
That's
worries.
the first thing that I want to ask you. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? Is it Andrea or Andrea?
Andrea, and you had it perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
You
you
know,
got to correct her sometimes. She kind of country.
I am.
Well,
You took the
perfect.
words out of my mouth. You took the words out of my mouth. So I'm so glad to have you. I did have the opportunity to meet you when you was in Springfield recently,
That's right.
at one of my closest friends, place of business, Sister Zeta. But you came to Springfield. Certainly, you were going around the city of Springfield, and you were, I believe it was a meet and greet, if I'm not mistaken. One of the things that I've had the opportunity to say to yourself, Tanisha Sullivan, as well as Chris, is that this election has been very educational for most of the voters, and for people like myself who are actively engaged in voting and certainly trying to encourage as many voters to get active and engaged as well. So, my first question to you, after you give us a little bit of your testimony, that's the term that we use in the faith community, right?
Right.
After
Right.
you give us a little bit of your testimony, we want you to define for us exactly what an attorney general is, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. And thank you for having me. And thank you to everyone who is listening. And I do understand testimony. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm also a believer. Um, I'll start with the testimony. I had a childhood filled, frankly, with incredible instability. When I was 8 months old, my mom died in a car accident. Going to visit my father, who was incarcerated at the time. My father and my brothers cycled in and out of the prison system. And my twin brother would die 10 years ago while in the custody of the Department of Corrections when he was only 29 years old as a pretrial detainee and as a result of receiving inadequate health care. All of my biological parents are deceased. All of my biological grandparents are deceased. And yet every day I wake up to turn that pain into purpose. And I jumped into the Attorney General's race because I truly believe this office has the lawyers, the staff, the resources to make sure every family has access to opportunity so they too can be successful just like I've been. I'm the first in my family to go to law school, the first in my family to go to college. And I know that other families can be afforded the same and that we can level the playing field. We can take on racial disparities. So the AG's office is the chief law enforcement office, so implement our laws fairly and equitably. But it can make sure every family has access to health care, a living wage, to job security, of course, can take on discrimination. It can help communities build wealth. It absolutely can protect us against community violence, protect our neighborhoods against environmental injustice, and so much more. So I've been out there stressing the broad scope of what this office can do to help everyday people.
Wow, that right there is a riveting testimony.
Mm.
Let me just ask you how do we deal with so much just as a people in general. I talked a little bit about racial trauma and all those things that we go through. How do you deal with that coupled with the tragic circumstances that you just described to maintain a good mental health and to be in a space where you can launch a campaign, statewide campaign for attorney general, and try to give back to the community in this way?
It's twofold. The first is definitely my faith. I start my day dropping my children off, but then I do my walk. And on my walk, I'm doing praise and worship. I think people at my park think I'm crazy. I got my hands in the air. It is a deep faith. And that, frankly, was planted in me by my aunt and uncle. So my aunt, who I call my mom, They live directly across the street from me in Mattapan in Boston. And my aunt would take me to church. We grew up going to a Pentecostal church. She planted those seeds early on. I never really understood when I was growing up what it all meant, but now I certainly do. And so it's my faith coupled with also mental health supports. Anyone who's gone through any type of trauma, and I stress this all the time, you need to see somebody. There are professionals out there who are equipped with the skills, the language, who are neutral, right? Not your family members, but someone who is a neutral person that can help you grapple with that trauma so you truly can turn it into purpose. And I think both of those things have really given me a sense of peace, authenticity, joy, compassion, empathy to wake up every day and to go about God's will for my life.
Wow.
I think I got a good impression, and this might be a little redundant, but I want you to flesh it out just a little bit more. So we already know. I don't need to add language to it. We already know the climate that we're in right now in 2022. The political climate, the racial climate, all of those things, that certainly are part of your campaign, and you're processing, these things as you run. Why do you feel that this is the right time for you to run for this position? And what difference will you make to the Attorney General's office as Andrea Campbell?
Mm-hmm. I actually have to sum up. Recently, I was just actually campaigning this weekend with our current Attorney General, Maura Healey, who will be our next governor. And she's endorsed me in this race, which that takes tremendous political courage because she knows all three candidates very well. She has worked with us. And to get involved in a primary while you're running your own race is usually unheard of. And what she has expressed is to say the office, for example, is using a racial equity lens right now. But she knows I would bring that to another level. She knows I would prioritize juvenile justice, prison reform, criminal legal reform, reentry because of my personal narrative. Those are issues that have never really been prioritized by any other AG. She knows I will show up in Western Mass. I was just in Springfield twice in 1 week, including Indian Orchard and surrounding communities, Berkshire County as well, communities that feel left out, left behind, a lot of our gateway cities. I have been showing up consistently and saying, I'm not just going to show up during a campaign. I'm going to keep coming back to really deliver solutions for residents. And she knows I will go into communities of color, and I'll name it poor, rural, white communities, and use it as an opportunity to bring us together to say we're grappling with similar inequities. They may look different, but let's roll up our sleeves to do the work of solving these issues. And why am I the best person in this moment in time? I mean, I took the leap of faith thinking about my twin brother, Andre, who passed. This year actually marks 10 years, and I don't think that's by coincidence that I would be blessed with this opportunity that's really presented itself. But I think given what we're seeing nationally, what we're seeing statewide, locally, folks want leadership that's going to be bold, courageous, operate with a sense of urgency, build trust with them between government and residents, then also get things done. And I'm always about getting things done, moving the needle for the people that need it the most, and really focusing on those who are vulnerable, marginalized, oppressed, and left out. It's a core part of who I am to make sure that never happens to anyone.
So the Maura Healey got involved in a lot of the things that were happening, not just in the Commonwealth, but across the country. Joined in with a number of other attorney generals and weighed in on some very critical issues. I've been fortunate to serve as a member of her Racial Equity Advisory Council. How will you utilize individuals in terms of advising you on issues, keeping your ear to the ground with what's happening in their communities, and expanding what she has done with using your influence as an attorney general to influence policy across the nation?
That's right. We have a national reputation, not just Maura Healey, but the office itself, on some of the work they're doing in the Community Engagement Bureau, around the opioid crisis, around the environment, climate. So I think continue that leadership on those issues, but also become a leader with respect to other issues. I think really taking on racial disparities, especially in the context of wealth building and housing. There's a lot the office can do to address a potential foreclosure crisis, to protect tenants, to help communities and small businesses build wealth in their communities, and look at discrimination and discriminatory practices by banking and financial institutions. There's a lot the office can do, and I think that's a national conversation. Criminal justice and criminal legal reform and prison reform, juvenile justice, this is a place we need to be showing up nationally that I don't think we are, and we should be. We have a lot of great things happening in the state, but we have a lot more work to do. So those issues, and guns, anything related to gun violence, gun trafficking, we have a lot of progressive laws on the books, but we know we still have to strengthen those laws. People are getting around our assault weapons ban. Trafficking is a major issue right now, Massachusetts, community violence. There's a lot of things we can do locally, but also from a national place or a national perspective. And where I would show up and make sure I'm surrounding myself with advisors, it's one, continuing some of these advisory boards, but strengthening our regional offices. There's an office in Springfield. Many folks don't even know it exists. How do you strengthen it? How do you hire more people from the community? How do you make sure it's culturally competent? Folks in the office speak different languages. I think there's a way to strengthen these offices and establish more of them. I also know that municipal government in Springfield has a funded position. Make sure it's being utilized and maximized to actually help folks on the issues they care about the most, and then show up. I'm blessed that I saw Ayanna was on here earlier. I called Ayanna Crawford a cold call and said, "Hi, my name is," and she was like, "Who are you?" I explained who I was, and she followed up to put together a Zoom conversation with, I think, 60 or 65 people, along with some local electeds. I would continue to stay in conversation with folks on the ground who are already doing the work, right, and who have solutions and ideas, just like yourselves. And I actually think the faith community needs to be doing a lot more. One, holding each other accountable on certain things, of course, but also really pushing the envelope of what faith does in our own lives and what it can do in the work, in the conversation, of course, and in the lives of others. I think there's a tremendous role to play and that we need to maximize it.
So, Andrea, one of the problems that I have, and we're just having a conversation here, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the problems that I have in trying to stay informed and trying to stay abreast of what's happening in relation to community and certainly politics throughout the state is it's so much always happening, It's so much always happening. Things are always changing. But there are also areas that are like priorities. And sometimes it's very complicated to prioritize where, we need to address first. So for you, what are those priorities, if you don't mind me asking? What are those priorities?
It's a great question, First Lady. And one is accessibility and the reach of the office. If you do it right and really strengthen that Springfield office, for example, and surrounding communities also have a place to go to access the services of an AG in the AG's office, you can really make a difference. You can do real constituent cases to respond to needs of real families and real small business owners and many others. And so I think that is the number one priority. Make sure the reach of the office is truly reaching everywhere, including Western Mass. Regional equity, I know, is a major issue. I served as an attorney at a regional planning agency that covers 101 towns and municipalities in the state, always talking about regional equity, communities that are left out, underfunded. So if you establish an office and strengthen the reach, show up more, right? Do initiatives and announcements around some major things that are happening in this state in Western Mass. People need to feel and see the presence of folks. We're so Boston-centric, we can change that so everyone feels a part. So that's number one, the reach and accessibility of the office. The second is mental health. I can't have another conversation with a family or parent who is grappling with the uptick in anxiety and depression and with their children, uptick in suicide, especially amongst Black girls. It is astounding and astonishing. And this epidemic of mental health is not new. It goes back decades.
100%.
We need to prioritize that. Many folks are dealing with unaddressed trauma, so many other things. You cannot go about your business if you are not right in the spirit, the mind, physically, all of that is all connected. And the office has tools. It's a healthcare bureau, has a healthcare bureau and so many other tools to make sure folks have access to mental health services that is affordable, that is accessible, dealing with insurance companies, reimbursement rates, all of these things the AG's office is going to have to grapple with. The other piece that is really important is housing. Just the cost of living is significant. Whether it is, for example, I'm talking to a senior who has insulin. And before COVID, they were paying a certain amount, and now they're paying maybe 3 times or 4 times that. That's called price gouging. The AG's office has the tools to deal with that. So just how expensive things are. At the same time, housing affordability. I can work with the next governor to produce more housing that is affordable, but also take on discrimination, make sure folks have access to capital, mortgage and financial institutions aren't discriminating against different communities while they're seeking to build their wealth. Doing a lot more for folks who live in public housing. I grew up in public housing. I'm a first-time homeowner in Mattapan. There are tools that we can be using to help folks build their wealth while also dealing with housing affordability and just the overall cost of living in Massachusetts.
You just confirmed my priorities. So
we're on the same wavelength, apparently, right?
Right. You know, I'm sitting over here and I'm just leaping right now because literally all 3 of those were like they're my top priorities as far as a community is concerned. Now let me just kind of shift just a little bit, and thank you so much for that. But I want to know this, and I'm not sure if it does. But how does the district attorney office work with the AG office? Or
they should be working together quite a bit. So what folks don't understand, the power of the AG's office is you have a criminal bureau, but you also have the authority and the power to take on any case and prosecute any case you want as the state's attorney. You give that power and deference to the district attorneys who are elected across the state. And they handle many matters, mostly criminal, because they are closest to the ground. They have the relationship with the police departments and the community, et cetera. But I think there's a greater oversight that an AG can play to ensure all district attorneys are transparent, accountable. If there are any cases that have been messed up, right now the AG's office has a conviction integrity unit that only covers cases that have gone wrong within the AG's office. I think you need to include district attorneys. Right. Some district attorney offices, Suffolk County, for example, has a conviction integrity unit to look at cases that don't smell right. Not every district attorney has those resources, has those offices. So I think the AG's office needs to think about expanding those services to make them available with other district attorneys and working in partnership. And transparency, accountability, and justice are the name of the game. And I'm not naive to the fact that in certain communities, including in Springfield, there are major cases going on where that sense of justice, accountability, and transparency has not been swift. There have been barriers. There have been individuals standing in the way of that, that need to be called out, that need to be held accountable. And it involves not just, say, police misconduct, but all types of public corruption that an AG has to take on. And you do that well when you work with the district attorney's office and the U.S. Attorney's Office, but significant power the AG's office has to do a whole lot in this area.
Yeah, I think that's critical. Some of the examples we've seen is when the district attorney's office here passed on indicting police officers in the Nathan Bill case and the Greg Bigda case. And then those cases had to be taken on by the AG's office because there was a failure, in my opinion, here. And often there's a nepotic relationship between the district attorney and the police department. I think that there are certain cases that should automatically be reviewed by an outside entity, the Attorney General's office, when there is an incident where a police officer takes the life of a civilian. I think it doesn't do much to garner the trust of the public when the same police department investigates and the district attorney uses the investigation of that police department investigating itself. And so I know that they have certain statutory authority, but how can the AG's office weigh in on those special circumstances?
Quite a bit. And this has come up. I chaired the Committee on Public Safety and Criminal Justice when I was on the Boston City Council. And whether it's overtime scandals, public corruption, police misconduct, or even an officer that was on the job for decades and accused and found guilty of child abuse and sexual assault. This is the problem, right? And you just summed it up perfectly, Bishop. Police departments should not be investigating their own. The culture is not appropriate for that. It gets in the way of any type of independence. Bias, of course, will play a role, and they shouldn't be expected to do that. So an AG's office can definitely play a role. Sometimes a district attorney might be most positioned well, but then you have to ask, obviously the district attorneys work with the police departments quite a bit in trying to, of course, prosecute crimes in their respective counties. I understand that, but there is a role that AG's office can play. In much of my policy that I put out, I actually propose establishing a police accountability unit within the Civil Rights Division of the office to really look at systemic reform across the state and putting resources and dedicated attorneys to address these types of issues, not just case by case, but systemic reform. That Nathan Bills case, I've been following that. I've spoken to the assistant AG who was involved. A lot of mistakes, a lot of injustices, frankly, along the way in that case that are crystal clear, which is absolutely unacceptable because a community shouldn't have to wait that long for any type of justice and accountability. So there's a lot an AG's office can do. And there are talented attorneys, let me tell you, who are taking these cases on every day. And they too are facing these barriers and they're getting frustrated and they want greater reform. Some of it can happen within the office. Some of it is legislative reform, but an AG can show up at the State House as well. I've been in that State House moving legislation to also make a difference.
So here's our son, Tyler.
Who I know.
Nominated you at the convention.
That's right.
which I thought was pretty cool. But if you are successful in winning this office, and if Tanisha is successful in winning her office, and even if Maura is successful, and then of course we've got Rachel Rollins as the U.S. Attorney.
Right.
How historic and significant would that be to have that number of women holding these major offices in the Commonwealth, and so many Black women as well?
Yeah,
it's about time.
Yeah.
You know, I can't stress the fact that as we're talking about these races, every race that is on the ballot right now, there is a historic candidate running, mostly women, with unique stories and backgrounds. So all of these candidates that have exercised their courage to put themselves out there, it's amazing. And so if we are to elect a really diverse electorate that finally reflects the communities we serve, that's a game changer, not just for Massachusetts, but nationally. I was just in Lawrence yesterday. I ended my day in Lawrence, and Maura Healy was there with me. And she said, I'm sitting at the table with all of these AGs from across the country. Andrea being in the room, she doesn't even have to say anything, changes the game. Because representation matters. There are very few women, very few Black women, very few people of color as AGs or other positions. And you have a presence that is significant, not just because people need to see folks who look like them, but I know I bring a unique lived experience and background that is not reflective of any candidate, frankly, who's ever run probably for anything in this state. But in addition to that, there is a sense of urgency. There's a priority of issues that you also focus on because of your lived experience that matter to people.
That's right.
Regional equity, it's not an afterthought for me. I never want anyone to feel left out, left behind, because I've felt that myself. And so it is amazing the history that is being made right now, even with folks running, win or lose, the history that is being made. And I appreciate the question, because what's been sad in this race, we have 8 days to go. 8 days to remind folks early voting is happening right now, to get out after Labor Day to vote in this primary, because this in many ways is the race for some candidates. and the media attention has been lacking. It's been better in Western Mass. I will tell you, the TVs show up, the reporters show up, the papers show up. But across the state, some of our major outlets still have work to do to cover these historic races so folks get involved and civically engaged and get out to vote.
That's honestly how I wanted you to end your interview today. Tell us how we can stay connected to you, follow you. Tell us what we need to do.
Absolutely.
And again, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. AndreaCampbell.org is the website. Everything that you would need to know about this campaign is on there. Follow us on social media. We are phone banking all the time. Sign up to phone bank. But most importantly, email, text all your people and say, get out to vote. People are underestimating different communities, especially communities of color, because we normally do not show up in a primary. So I'm pushing back against that narrative to say people show up because this office can absolutely help people. We can rebuild trust between residents and government. And I'll just add this. I'm running against an opponent. You've seen her ads on TV, Shannon. She's already spent $6.5 million of her own money. She is attempting to buy this race. She spends $800,000 of her own money on TV ads. Our ad is up, and so we are pouring our grassroots dollars into our ad so people see it. But it's going to take this grassroots operation continuing to expand. Folks, reminding folks to get out and vote now or the day after Labor Day. And I hope to earn your support and theirs as well. I'm not slowing down. We got 8 days to go. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate you so much. You got our vote, and we're encouraging everybody who's connected to us to vote for Andrea Campbell for Attorney General for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Thank you so very much, Bishop, First Lady. Continue to take care of yourself. Tyler, you too. But continue to take care of yourselves in the midst of all of this. And when we cross that finish line, the glory will go to him. And this will be about the people and accountable to the people. And I've always carried that spirit in this race, and I will continue to do the same when we secure that victory. So we'll stay in prayer and we'll do the work. But thank you all for having me. Stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all very soon.
All right.
God bless you. She's amazing. She's incredible. I mean, Andrea and Tanisha, oh my God. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. Like, who else would we vote for in those two races, in those two campaigns? Like, who else would we vote for?
Yeah, well, there you have it. I mean, I think, like she said, win or lose, history's being made. Just the fact that they are
can't be no lose though.
That they're in there, that they, the fact that she nearly won the nomination and is still on the ballot, the fact that Tanisha actually won the nomination. It's a historic moment in the Commonwealth, with Rachel Rollins in place as the U.S. Attorney, a black woman. Imagine Andrea being Attorney General, a black woman, Tanisha being Secretary of State, a black woman holding these major statewide offices and influencing policy across the Commonwealth. I think we're in a good place.
Yeah, but I just would like to add to that, babe, that her change, I mean, her election or her being elected would change the game. If the state ends up electing the other candidate, whatever, it'll just be more of the same. And we need changes. We need that office to work with other offices, especially constitutional offices throughout the state of Massachusetts and, local municipalities in changing the game, changing the laws, and improving our quality of life. That won't happen with any of the other candidates in Tanisha's campaign and race and in Andrea's campaign and race. That won't happen unless we elect those two ladies. And I I would subject myself into saying that that's the case also in the auditor's race. Like we need to elect and we need to vote for Chris Dempsey if we want to see change, if we want to see somebody that's working with these black women, if we elect them, that would be working with Mara, that respect and that respects these women. Um, and Mark just brought it up, which I don't know a whole lot, but I do know that people that I love and respect, and I've reached out to, the governors council race.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have like 4 or 5 people running for governor's council here, and I think he's supported by one candidate, Mike Fenton, I believe, is endorsed by the current governor's council representative or whatever. But from what I'm hearing in the black community, none of us want to vote for Mike. We want to vote for Jeff. Now, I haven't met Jeff. I don't know Jeff. But most of the people that I know and have spoken to, they're voting for Jeff. I don't know Jeff. I think Mark just brought him up here online. I don't know Jeff. I haven't had the opportunity to meet him, but I am hearing that his values align more with our values as a governor's council candidate. So maybe we'll get an opportunity to, find out more about that, or maybe I can do some research on my own and find out more about that. Angela just put in Sean Allen. I know Sean Allen. Sean, why is that name familiar?
Yeah, we know Sean.
Sean, wait a minute. My friend Sean. I don't know. I need to look into that. Yeah.
But let me just suffice it to say, not Mike Fenton.
Well, no, that's my point. Not Mike. Anybody but Mike. Anybody but Mike. But she's amazing. These ladies are amazing, and I like Moira too. I love Moira. Matter of fact, so I think that this election is critical, and I know we say that every time there's a election, but this one is historic, it's epic, it's critical, but more importantly than that, I can really see the rainbow in this if we do right, if we come out and we vote and we support these people, we support these candidates. And listen, y'all, you hear me say all the time, and I'm sorry, my voice is a little hoarse. But you hear me say all the time that we gotta understand that voting is not just going down and submitting your ballot. That's part of it. But in order to see real change, you got to stay connected to the people that you voted for. You got to stay involved. You got to stay engaged, not only to hold them accountable, but to see the vision through, to see the priorities through. I was leaping out of my seat because Chris, Andrea, Tanisha, in different ways, but with the same passion and consistency, have they got their priorities straight. They got their priorities straight, and they got a good grasp or understanding of the inequities here throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, as well as the racial climate and all of those things that are pertinent when it comes to seeing change through. So we need to vote. I was a little disappointed. Can I say it, Bishop? I was a little disappointed that I didn't hear more jubilance around yesterday being Souls to the Polls Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear nobody. I like when I went down there, I was the only one that went down to City Hall after church. And then, I tried to do a Facebook Live, which I don't do that often, but they wasn't closing until 5 o'clock, and it was like 1:45 when I went down there. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'll try to get other people to come down here and get their ballots in after church today. It took 5 minutes. Drove right down there after church. The parking was everywhere, because wasn't nobody coming down there to vote. But anyway, parked in front of City Hall, went through the side door, walked down the highway. The nice ladies was there to greet, or whatever. They pulled my ballot for me. I went and I voted, so, and closed my envelope and left. It took all of 5 minutes. So, and that's just the voting part. Y'all, this week is early voting. You can get the bulk of your voting done this week. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait till election day where it's a possibility. I doubt it. But it's a possibility where you might have to wait, where you might have to wait, or you might have a little bit of a line, depending on where you vote, or whatever the case may be. Get it done during the early voting process. Or if you apply for a ballot, get that ballot filled out and mail back in. You need to mail it as soon as possible so that it can be accounted for. And listen, like I said to some of the seniors at the church, they know that they can trust my counsel. They know that they can trust Bishop's counsel. So every once in a while, you'll have a voter that's not necessarily informed or educated about who to vote for. And so they trust your opinion on that. And so, with that being said, there's been some seniors at our church, and Bishop knows this, that have called me and asked me, who do I vote for here? Who do I vote for here? We have children too that do the same thing. Of course, there are adult children that do the same thing. But whatever you do, get the information that you need so you can be a confident voter, an informed voter, and get that ballot in. Tanisha needs your vote. Andrea needs your vote. Chris needs your vote. All of these people, that are running, and especially that are running against people, need your vote. And listen, this is just the primaries. It ain't over. This is just the primaries.
Right.
We need to get them through the primaries so that we can vote for them in the general election, because most likely they're going to be running against a Republican candidate in November. So we need to get them through the primaries. We need to get who we support and who we believe in and who we believe is the best candidate. We need to get them through the primaries. And while I'm at it, Springfield, you also have the main election for Ward 5 City Council, LeVar Click on September, the week after September 6th. So that's going to be on September 13th. So you have September 6th, and Ward 5, you got to come back September 13th. You got to come back September 13th.
So there's your statewide information. The deadline passed for the September 6th primary. It was this past Saturday, I believe, August 27th. To register was the deadline. Vote by mail application deadline is it today? Yeah, it's today. So if you're going to vote by mail, it has to be postmarked by today. Understand that it has to be postmarked by today. I would say the safest thing to do now is to do it in person through early voting, which is happening up until September 2nd, and then election day on September 6th. The polling hours are 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. And then for the November 8th election, your voter registration deadline is October 29th. Your vote by mail application deadline is November 1st. Early voting will take place from October 22nd to November 4th. And then election day on November 8th is 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So
And
that's
if we vote for Tanisha, some of these antiquated ways that we're still voting will be cleared up and taken care of, and we'll be a little bit more advanced in our voting process if we vote for Tanisha and get Tanisha into our Secretary of State office. Just so y'all know.
yeah.
Just so y'all know. So we need to vote for Tanisha Sullivan. We need to vote for Andrea Campbell. We need to vote for these black women, but not just because they're black women, but because they are the most qualified. And not only are their qualifications outstanding, but they are outstanding individuals. They are outstanding people that put the people first. This is not politics for them. This is people and our quality of life for them. So yeah. Let's do that. Bishop, we have a few minutes left, and so I don't want to take a hard turn, but I sort of kind of do. I sort of kind of do, to get back to the subject of your show, your earlier show of spoken word.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the title of your show was The Attack on Black Men.
Black male bashing going wild.
Yeah, The Attack on Black Men. And I loved some of the commentary from some of the black men that called in particular, some of the black men that called in. And so, but I did want to say this. I think it's important to the conversation. And maybe I think this is important to the conversation because I am a licensed mental health therapist myself. So I don't even want to talk about the young lady because her delivery was completely off. And I think I mentioned last week that she may be suffering from burnout herself, and because that's what it looks like, or she may be in need of some mental health services herself. That certainly is what it sounds like. But moving away from the controversial part of her video and her lashing out, on black men. I do want to bring up the article that she made reference to. She made reference to an article that was written in, I think, Psychology Today, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember, or the American Psychological Association, which basically wrote a series of articles actually addressing black boys or black male children in emotional intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence has to do with, first of all, defining your emotions, and kind of developing your interpersonal skills, right? And how we end up navigating our interpersonal relationships or our relationships, period. So there is, and this is not just two black boys, but I'm gonna stick with black boys because I happen to be a mother of black boys. So I'm just gonna stick with that group. So what she should have mentioned, or and maybe this is what she was trying to do, was that if we don't equip our children, and like I said, we're gonna stick with black boys. If we don't equip our children with the skills and the know-how to define their emotions, to speak about their emotions, to cope with their emotions, to manage their emotions in appropriate ways, also in positive ways. If we don't give them the language, if we don't give them the skills, if we don't give them the know-how, the behaviors, that um, that can be a deficit in their development and cause great harm psychologically, emotionally, and even manifest itself in physical ways, depending on what kind of relationship they are trying to have. Whether it be a romantic relationship, whether it be a relationship with their father, their mother, whatever. If you don't have a good EQ, you see that play out. You see that play out in all kinds of negative ways. So, so one of the things that I, as a therapist, would encourage um, any of my clients that have that issue. Again, we need to we need to give them language sometimes. We need to build a repertoire. We need to give them skills. We need to give, them coping skills. We need to give them options. We need to give people options, right? That's like the greatest skill that you can give somebody is language and options. Language and options so that if they only know one way to react or respond and it's negative, if they got options, if they have a repertoire, if they have other language and this and the other, they can even create other positive, more, more, just better ways of dealing with their trauma, their triggers, or whatever. So one of the things too, the culture will tell boys don't cry, for instance. And that's supposed to be a sign of strength, not to cry. But we also know that that's a lie, right? And so that would be an example of emotional IQ being increased because you're dismantling that lie that maybe little boys were told and was never intervened on, and so now they 21 years old and they going around trying to hold their tears in, but they're also trying to do that and they're in a romantic relationship, and so they're not opening themselves up, they're not being vulnerable, they're not being loving because they was told that boys don't cry. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it is a real issue. It is a real issue, and a lot of times it can be exposed in therapy. But if a therapist, sometimes the therapists don't have an EQ either.
Well, there was one lady who was a therapist herself, who said you have to be careful in terms of who you choose as a therapist because sometimes your therapist needs to go to therapy.
That's right. Well,
That many times what they're doing is they're bleeding all over their clients with their own unresolved issues that they really need therapy for.
and I don't like. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna push back just a little bit, but I don't. Maybe pushback is the wrong phrase. But what I'm saying is, you don't go to therapy just when there are problems. Listen, people, I need for everybody to understand this. You go to therapy to prevent problems, from happening. You don't go to therapy just for problems. Now, like say for instance, I know that there are segments or different sections of therapy. For instance, if I was a recovering addict, so you have, specialized therapy for that, but generally speaking, um, you use therapy to prevent problems from coming up. Self-awareness, self-awareness is key. To know yourself is to prevent um, some serious issues from happening. It's to prevent a nervous breakdown. It's to prevent depression from settling in. So you don't go. Sometimes it's too late. Once a problem has arose, sometimes it's too late to go to therapy. Therapy won't do. You're gonna need something more advanced than therapy. But therapy is a preventative
Yeah,
measure. It's a preventative.
most people don't see it that way. Most people see therapy as to be sought as a reaction to trauma and things that have already happened and damaged you, as opposed to a preventative measure.
Right. And so that's why I'm saying we got to recondition our thinking about that. But a lot of times, most times, and I do get it. For instance, like stuff don't come on you until after a crisis, until after a trauma, and then somebody will tell you, or maybe you will feel yourself, which is the best case scenario. Maybe I should go to therapy so that I can see if they can expose some elements of what's happening with me from a more neutral space and from a more neutral uh, uh, area. Yeah, but I mean, so like I said, being the mother of black boys, being married to a black man, basically, I think I'm just gonna say this. Some of us would agree. Some of us would agree that it can be very frustrating, when you're in a relationship with someone, um, whether it's your son, your daughter, your husband, your wife, or your just significant people in your life, and they don't have communication skills. It can be very frustrating to want to talk to somebody, want them to share their heart with you, or to define their emotions and whatever. And that's the other thing too. She was probably inundated, maybe that was the client that she worked with. So she was probably inundated with that kind of client, and she became jaded. She just became jaded because that's all she dealt with, was a client that, wouldn't talk, that refused to talk, or had issues around communication and defining his emotions and this and
Plus, I'm not a therapist or anything like that. I did do pastoral counseling and that kind of thing, but I think this goes beyond being jaded by her experiences as a therapist, because of just the whole demeanor and language, calling people dusty bees and
I can't I can't
and all that I think that's beyond
yeah, I agree. I
rated
agree.
about in
I agree.
therapy. Calling dusty bees and sad MFers, and then making subsequent videos where she's twerking and talking about
See that?
yeah, the latest one, she was twerking and she said that men deserve, that 99.99% of men deserve hell or jail.
She said men or black men?
She said men. The inference is black men, but she said 99.99% of men deserve hell or jail, while she's twerking and saying y'all don't deserve this ass and smacking her behind. This was somebody's therapist.
No, she's been somebody's therapist
Yeah,
probably for years. Ain't no
yeah,
telling what kind of damage she's done.
right. This was somebody's therapist until last Friday.
Yeah, well, oh, I don't know what to say. That's a lot. That's a lot. But she sounds like she has some serious, very serious issues, and she needs some help. She could have had a nervous breakdown. You know, people have nervous breakdowns in public all the time. And depending on who they are, like a Kanye West, for instance, um, they get help or they don't get help. You know, sometimes they so high profile, people don't get them the help that they need and they deserve.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, what was the actress who recently committed suicide?
Actress?
Yes. Come on now, help me out.
I don't know.
Uh, yes, you do.
I don't know an actress that recently committed suicide.
Oh, yes, you do. Somebody in the comments, come on, help me with it. Naomi Judd. Judd.
Oh, she wasn't an actress. She was a country singer.
Okay, well, some celebrity.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, and
It's a,
I guess her daughter's a celebrity as well.
yeah.
Um,
Daughter,
and
one of her daughters is an actress.
right, that's where I got the actress from. But anyway, you know, she had serious mental health issues, and people assume that's because somebody's a celebrity or well known or something like that that they, you know, got it all together. But I mean, just think about it down through history. You know how many overdosed on drugs or committed suicide. I mean, you know, I think probably one of the most high profile suicide when I was younger. I forget what year it was. You know, it was probably after we were married, but we were got married in our 20s, and you know, I was a big fan of her music, Phyllis Hyman. It was a shock to all of us.
I think
You
that was before we got married, because yeah,
know, when,
that was a
you
shock.
know,
Yeah.
when Phyllis Hyman committed suicide, um, that you just don't know what kind of mental state people are in, and we make assumptions that because people are successful, because they're well known, because they, you know, they have money and resources, et cetera, that kind of, you know, diffuses any type of mental health issues, but it doesn't.
Not at all.
You
Not at
know,
all. No, she suffered from clinical depression for decades.
no, we were married. She died. She committed suicide in '95.
Yeah. So, but Miss Judge, she suffered from clinical depression for decades. You know, decades. We're talking. She lived a long time with the depression, but she, you know, yeah. So, yeah. So it's interesting, but my point really is to drive home the necessity of all of us, because all of us can be subject to um, a pain, dealing with a pain that we don't necessarily have to if we would just open ourselves up in developing and maturing our emotional um, intelligence, if you will. And all that really is, everybody, all that really is learning language around your emotions, around your feelings, being willing to share that, communicate that, not hide that, not internalize that. Because internalizing a lot of your frustration and pain makes things worse, as opposed to if you feel the need to cry and be sad, cry and be sad. If you feel the need to say, this hurts my feelings, or that hurt my feelings, or that made me mad, or that made me upset, or or whatever, share those emotions, especially with those that you love and you care about. It's very important to communicate, and that doesn't always have to just be verbally. You can write things out. um you can say, I want to talk to you, like, let's say it's me and Bishop. Bishop can say, I want to talk to you, just not right now, give me a moment, or give me till tomorrow, I just need to kind of decompress first. before I share with you my frustrations, or before I share with you how I feel, or before I share with you how you made me feel, or whatever the case may be, whatever. But then, people on the other side, they need to be willing to do the same, and they need to have a sense of awareness about themselves, but they also need to have, like, not take things personally, not take, like, if Bishop was upset, I got to be mature enough, and I got to be skilled enough not to take it personal if he says, well, when you did this, I felt this way, or whatever, and so that we can, hash it out and really communicate about it, so that we can figure out a way to keep him from feeling upset when I do a certain thing, or when I've done a certain thing. So EQs are very important, especially for a therapist, a counselor. We got to have EQ. We got to have a sense of awareness. If I'm working with a particular group that deals with certain things socially, and spiritually, I need to have an EQ. I need to have language around that. I need to have language and an understanding around all of those things that Black boys have to deal with, for instance, or Black women have to deal with. If I'm counseling Black women, that Black women have to deal with. You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes
Yep.
you got to give people. Sometimes you got to give people the words. Sometimes you got to give people the language. And that's what a good therapist will do. That's what a good therapist will do.
Well, listen, we'll continue this conversation next week. Is it Labor Day next? When is Labor Day? Yeah, it's Labor Day weekend coming up. So it'll be Labor Day Monday. It'll be the day before the election when we see you next, and we'll be pushing you and your cousins to the polls.
Everybody, get your vote plans together. Get out there and vote.
Dottie Dottie and everybody. Listen, we're out. Until the next time, remember God loves you, so do we. Hope Fest coming up. Holy Convocation coming up. Check out the information in the chat section. We'll see y'all later. Deuces.